The worst formal interview I've ever been in my life. That's even outside of football. He's so entitled. He takes unnecessary sacks. He never plays on time. He has horrible body language. He blames teammates. But the biggest thing is, he's not that good. This is a wild, wild quote. Brew, do you want the first crack at this?
Well, look, I like Shedeur. You guys know I think he's going to be a very good player in the NFL. I think he has a lot of the intangibles. You know, I'm a big intangibles guy with quarterbacks because a lot of the great ones have the intangibles, not just the physical.
It's also the only way to be a fan of Brock Purdy. You have to love the things that you
I
can't
think
be
Brock,
measured.
I mean, he can run with, we won't get to a Brock thing, but Shedeur is a leader. I think he's a good leader.
Yeah.
I think he is a smart quarterback. He's accurate. And so I think he's obviously got confidence. I'm not even talking about cockiness. He's tough. He's confident. And he's, grown up in the spotlight, as big a spotlight as a player at his level could have because of his dad. So I think he'll be fine in that. So I like Shedeur. I think he's going to be good. Look, the quote is the quote. I read the article. The first, 5 quotes were positive. Then there were a couple in the middle, then a couple negative. I feel like, I don't know if one of you guys are going to do it. Sometimes when I watch the commentary on Shedeur, I feel like there's people out there trying to protect him almost in a patronizing way, probably because they love Deion, and I like Deion too. But I just feel like people are like, oh, it's unfair. He's slipping. It's so unfair. This happens every year. I mean, like I said, I think it's a mistake that he's slipping. But I'm just saying, I don't think we need to treat Shedeur with kid gloves because we love Deion. And so I just think some of that's happening because you see people slipping all the time and they don't get, oh, it's so unfair. I literally saw people on TV, it's unfair. It's just a process. It's draft analysis. If you want to say you shouldn't quote, guys negatively, anonymously, that happens all the time nowadays. Yeah. So that's my take on it.
Yeah, I still feel like it's cowardly to do this. And the things that was said, like entitled and, bad teammate or blames teammates and all those things. We haven't heard one time any teammate that Shedeur has been a teammate with talk negative about him. Not one time. Not one time have we seen him get in an altercation with a teammate. And so, to have this come out, it's frustrating as someone who's gone through these processes, who has sat down with teams, who has sat down with different coaches, and you want to put on your best self. It's not that you're trying to be fraudulent, not that you're trying to mask anything, but Shedeur is a very unapologetic, authentic individual. He's going to be what he is, and he's not. Like I said, he's not apologetic about that, and sometimes that will rub people the wrong way. And if you feel that way, that's fine. But to simply say he's entitled and all the things that was said, he's a bad player, and it was like, come on, man.
Can we throw the quote back up, Dust? Sorry, I should have given you a heads up on that. But because I have a question for you. What was odd to me about the quote was it was just scattershot. They're just very different things. The interview was awful. He's entitled. Okay, that's part of the interview.
Yep.
Takes unnecessary sacks. It's like that was, did you see week 6?
Right.
Horrible body language. I assume that was on the court. On the field, blames teammates, and he's not that good. So this guy does not like Shedeur Sanders, the player, then met him, and doesn't like Shedeur Sanders, the person. Got it. I think I'm in the middle on you guys about what's fair and what's not. And again, it's just, I can't explain it. The only anonymous quotes that I've always thought were out of bounds is when people are like, that guy's dumb. I never liked that. When it was openly basically questioning guys' intelligence, I always thought, I was like, how do you really know if the guy's smart or not? Like those in, what is football smart versus other things? That always felt, and maybe that's because that almost always felt like there were real racial connotations to it. I didn't like it. This other stuff, and this is the question I have for you is, if that really is how you feel about a player,
right,
and you are someone that talks to reporters anonymously and also gives glowing is the best, I've never had a better interview with a guy, then I feel like the only way your commentary is ever going to be taken seriously, it's like, hey, Got 5 players to tell you about. This one wowed me. These guys were not much of anything. And this was the worst 20 minutes of my life. I couldn't get, and so I didn't view it as unfair. I viewed it as cutting and caustic. I didn't view it as that unfair. And so I just don't know if we want to get unvarnished what people are saying about players. And it's up to the journalist to make sure, wait, hold on. Every quote you give me is negative. That means, you know what I mean? I'm not like up to the journalist to be like, okay, are you giving me the real here?
Well, okay. This whole thing is kind of bizarre. And I believe I'm going to live stream the NFL draft, by the way. So check that out, please. But just want to plug that real fast. But this whole thing is kind of bizarre for multiple reasons. And, you know, I agree. Like, Nick took what I was going to say in terms of the quote where it's just all over the place. 1 minute, it's about his play. The next minute, it's about his body language. Like, it's just kind of scattered. And this whole thing is kind of bizarre because it's an assistant coach. I don't know if they're more specific about, you know, define assistant coach, right? Like an offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, tight end coach, you know, the 30th coach on the team, like, you know, like who actually is it? Although he was obviously part of the formal interview, so it's got to be someone, you know, of some degree of importance. And I guess if I look at it like this, if I'm the head coach of a team, or I'm the owner of the team, or the GM, and I'm the one that's really managing these other guys, if I found out that someone on my staff made a quote like this, I would be furious. I would be livid. If it's actually how I truly felt. If that's actually, like, if that's what we reached the conclusion and that was the reality, I would be furious because I would be like, why are you putting that out there? This is our conclusion. We don't think he's good. We think he's a bad quarterback and then he's going to be bad. Let everyone else draft him, man. Let someone draft him. Don't put that out there. This was our conclusion. So a lot of people think he's good. Don't, just stop. And the only way then it's a positive is if you actually don't believe in any of this, and now you're trying to put up a smokescreen. Right now you need your tinfoil hat. And it's like the New York Giants actually love him, but they put this all out there because they're like, they want him to drop so then they can get him later or something. Like that's where this whole thing just gets like, it just becomes a mess, honestly. And I find it, I look at a lot of these, you know, sports talk shows, and especially the conversations around the draft now, because obviously that's what we're all focused on. And I try to figure out, like, at the end of the day, I talk about this a lot. Like, at the end of the day, like, the NFL is entertainment, obviously. And all these shows are entertainment. Like, I remember when I was first making this channel, you know, I would make a video, whatever, talking about first things first, the herd, whatever. And a lot of comments, and I don't really get these comments as much anymore, but early on, I used to get, you know, a lot of comments where people say, why are we even talking about this? We'll just find out, you know, on Sunday or something. And it's just like, dude, like, that's part of the entertainment. Part of it is for us to have these conversations, to talk about it in the off season, to have the fun, random, absurd examples of, like, if Lamar Jackson played for the Kansas City Chiefs, would he win a Super Bowl? Like, it's just entertainment. It's just fun. It's just like, you know, like none of it actually really matters. Like, none of it actually matters. And that's always the thing. Like, this all matters so much, but it also doesn't matter. But now when we're kind of start talking about the NFL draft, and we're talking about all these, you know, college kids going into the draft, like, if this was true, again, I'm like, why are you saying this? And if this is not true, and you're using this as a smokescreen because you kind of want to help your, you know, the New York Giants. I'm just using the Giants as an example, not because I believe they did this, but you know, the Giants are kind of like, hey, give this interview, you know, tell this to Tom, get that out there. We want people to be really confused about what's going on with Shedeur because we want to draft him. And I kind of question the antics and the approach to trying to now draft Shedeur, right? Like it's like if you're trying to date someone, you know, and lots of guys are kind of interested in this girl, and you just tell everyone, oh, dude, she's, you know, she's got some problems, man. She's she has this and this and this and this. I've seen her records. I saw her. I know a friend of hers, and her friend told her that you do not want to touch this girl, and you spread that around. Now everyone believes that about the girl. Now no one wants to date her, and you're like, oh hey, what's up? How you doing? It's just like, yeah, you maybe landed the girl because no one else wants her, but you just kind of ruined her reputation. It's like I don't know if that's the approach that you should take. That's just kind of bad business. And I don't know. And I know there's always that kind of back and forth between anonymous versus non-anonymous. Like, that's where you have to trust the journalist to understand, like, are you getting the truth? Are you getting real answers? It doesn't matter if it's all positive or all negative. It's just, you got to be you got to be a good judge of character. You got to be a people person. You got to kind of understand kind of are you getting the reality of a situation. And I think for the most part these types of journalists do a good job of understanding, are they getting the reality of a story, because you can only get played so many times and you're only going to get burned so many times. They talked about this about in the draft, where if you're having conversations with someone on draft day or just in general, and someone says, Mangini kind of talked about this, where teams like, hey, we want to make a trade, and they're like, okay, well, are you looking for an offensive or defensive player? And they're like, oh, we're going to draft an offensive player, and they're like, okay, great, but then they now go back and draft a defensive player. You're like not going to want to do business with them. It's just bad business. It's bad relationship building. Like, the NFL is actually really built on these win-win relationships, not win-loss relationships. Because otherwise you're not going to be able to continue to make deals, and you're not going to be able to continue to do business together. And make no mistake about it, like, all these guys, the owners, the GMs, like, they have their own meetings. They're all together. Like, they all understand the game that they're playing. They're all trying to win, and they want to win, but they also all understand, like, this is all a game. It's also all about just making as much money as we humanly possibly can. And so they're all playing by those same rules here. And so, like, that's why something like this is even more interesting to me, just from a more meta perspective, from a true outside looking in, which is why I referenced, like, this is an entertainment company. Like, is this entertaining? And I'm just like, on one side, I'm like, okay, having this conversation is interesting to me. But in terms of, like, the draft itself, and then trying to sift through stories like this, sound bites, quotes like this, I'm over it. Like, I'm actually really happy that the NFL draft is happening, so we no longer have to have conversations like this, because I'm really kind of over it. And I don't think there's any I don't think there's anything specific necessarily about Shedeur Sanders and why we're having so many of these types of conversations about him. It's just that Shedeur is clearly the number one draw of the draft in terms of popularity. And so you're just, always trying to squeeze as much juice as you possibly can. I just wrote in the comment section right before I made this video how I was like, I really actually hope Shedeur, I'm so fascinated to see where Shedeur gets drafted, and then I really hope he starts. I don't think him starting as a rookie would be the best thing for him, but from an entertainment perspective, from seeing all the takes, like, Shedeur, without a shadow of a doubt, no matter where he's drafted, if he's starting, he is going to be on these shows Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. It is going to be nonstop. He is the draw. Just like Caleb Williams was the draw above Jaden Daniels. They even when Jaden Daniels started to take over and be special and was having all these great moments, there was, without a shadow of a doubt, I cover this is what I do, without a shadow of a doubt, more takes about what was going wrong with Caleb and the Chicago Bears than what was going right for Jaden Daniels and the Washington Commanders. So the media they just pounce and get on this one-track mind. They just keep going and going and going. Is anyone talking about Trevor Lawrence lately? No one's talking about Trevor Lawrence. He's not interesting. No one's talking about it. No one's talking about Cam Ward, the number 1 overall pick. Not interesting. Not moving the needle for anyone. But Shedeur Sanders is. So if he gets, he obviously he's getting drafted, but if he gets drafted to a team where he's going to be able to start, like it's going to be box office in terms of all the stories, all of the content, all of the views, and it's going to be squeezed every last drop. Every last drop. Bo Nix and Denver Broncos had more success than Caleb and Chicago Bears. Jaden Daniels had more success and played better than Caleb Williams. Yet Caleb Williams probably had more clips about him with all the main shows than both of those quarterbacks combined. Seriously. I mean, it took like weeks and weeks and weeks for them finally to start truly building some momentum behind Jaden Daniels and the Washington Commanders. But before that, I mean, it was brutal. Even in the game when they played each other, it was about the Chicago Bears losing rather than the Washington Commanders and Jaden Daniels winning. I mean, like, that was really kind of like the perfect example of that. The story was Chicago Bears and Caleb Williams lose, not Jaden Daniels and the Washington Commanders winning on a Hail Mary attempt. And so Shedeur is just, I mean, it's just, and it's going to be everything. It's going to be the good, the bad, the ugly, the positive, the negative, the personal stuff, his body language. And this is what they do. This is what they did with Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams, they were ripping his body language when he was clearly in pain. And I remember when he was on the bench and I defended him and people were like, this is such bad body language, et cetera, et cetera. There's rumors around that his team wants to bench him, right? Remember all that? Oh, they want to bench him for whoever the heck the backup quarterback was at the time. Right? Like it was just like everything. It was just, we just heard story after story after story after story. Oh, Caleb texted his punter that he's not going to punt that much. He paints his nails. He cries to his mom. He's got a pink phone case or something like that, whatever. It was just endless. And that's what happens when you're popular. That's just the way it goes. When you're popular. Nobody was talking about that with really pretty much any of these other quarterbacks. Jalen Hurts, Super Bowl MVP. The Philadelphia Eagles won the Super Bowl. And again, without a shadow of a doubt, like 10x more takes about Caleb Williams than Jalen Hurts, the quarterback who went on to win the Super Bowl. There was more takes about Caleb Williams than Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen. I mean, seriously, he was the number one quarterback in terms of popularity and the conversations that people were having. It was Caleb. And so that is what it's going to be with Shedeur next season. And so, from an entertainment perspective, I'm like, oh man, I want that because I do love the entertainment. I love the conversations, and I always find it fascinating. Again, this is why I really kind of made this channel, because I find the conversations so fascinating, and then I try to unpack them, and that's why it's like, the reason why I took that angle with all of this is because it's like, what am I going to do now? I'm going to try to unpack right now this specific paragraph. Was it the worst formal interview ever? I have no idea. Is he entitled? I don't know. Does he have horrible body language? Okay. He blames his teammates? I don't know. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I have no desire to try to really unpack this and be like, let's see if there's truth to this. Is he entitled? Probably. Does he have some entitlement? I'm sure. His dad's Deion Sanders. He grew up rich, and, I'm sure. Was it the worst formal interview ever? I'd love to know why. Tell me why. Maybe the article's there, but I'm not reading that article. If someone knows, like, tell me why, if there's actually information. What made it the worst formal interview? Did he have bad body language? Was he slouching? Did he take out his phone? Was he looking around? Was he not making eye contact? Did he wear his hat crooked? Like, what did he do? Was he eating a bag of Doritos? Like, I don't understand. What was he doing? Did he pull out a big steak and was like, yes, tell me more? Like what happened here? Was he munching on some peanuts and it was just really loud and crunchy? Like, I don't know. He blames his teammates. What did he blame his teammates about? Explain to me. How did he blame his teammates? Like, that would be interesting to me then. That would be actually kind of interesting to me. And listen, I'm unsold of Shedeur Sanders. Like, I'm not here saying like, oh, I think Shedeur Sanders is going to be this great quarterback. Like, I'm not so positive about that, quite frankly. But I'm excited but that's the thing. Since he's so popular and since it's so polarizing, I'm certainly excited to see it play out. So like I keep saying, from an entertainment perspective, I'm like, yeah, man, let's get to this. It's gonna be, fascinating to see. He plays for the New York Giants. It's like, oh man, he's going to be playing against Jaden Daniels and the Washington Commanders. He's going to be playing against the reigning Super Bowl champions, the Philadelphia Eagles. That's immediately going to be a primetime game now, right? Like, they will make that a Monday night game. Shedeur Sanders and the Giants taking on the Philadelphia Eagles. Like, that's how popular Shedeur Sanders is. That's how popular he is. You're going to have that game without a doubt. Without a doubt. You're not going to get that game with like Jameis Winston. So I think I think when you're that popular, you always get above and beyond narratives, above and beyond stories. I think when you get something like this, there's probably truth. Unless this is like the ultimate smokescreen, there's probably legitimate truth to some of the things that are being said, but the volume is just cranked up so loud. But then it becomes, since you are so polarizing, people do try to make this become pretty much essentially like political, and then it just becomes, you know, one side saying this, one side saying that. You start bringing up things that don't really belong in this conversation, and it gets many, which is why I liked what Bruce said, where Bruce was like, stop trying to, you know, baby this conversation. This is what happens. He's sliding in the draft. It happens all the time to all different players. Like, this is how this works. And so I'm really glad Brew came out and said that, because it's true. But then other people with you know, ulterior motives and their own incentives want to be like, this is ridiculous. I can't believe Shedeur is slipping. This is only happening because of, and then it becomes its own story. And it just becomes this, you know, bizarre feedback loop. So I don't know. I'm definitely happy for this just to be over, and we can, you know, officially on Thursday. This is posting on Thursday. I'm recording this Wednesday evening. We finally reached the point where it's just we're officially talking about concrete football things. How does Ashton Genty look like? You know, what will he look like with the Las Vegas Raiders? You know, how will Shedeur Sanders fit with Brian Dable or, you know, Kevin Stefanski or, you know, whoever? Like, we'll have real concrete conversations about, like, how did the draft go? Who won? Who lost? How does this player fit here? What are they going to look? What is it going to look like? Will he sit? Will he start? You know, we have concrete, real conversations to have, rather than everything else that is just fluffed up and the volume turned up. Like when they tried to say, oh, you know, Justin Herbert, you know, Harbaugh wants to trade Justin Herbert and draft JJ McCarthy. Like, that was like a legitimate story, and it was just like, we're just maybe like maybe there was a whisper of that, but like not really, and we just decided to crank that up, you know, just because. Why not? You know, hey, we got to say something. Doesn't matter, so let's just say it. And it shot the betting odds for that. Perverse incentives. And it ended up not being right. So people literally lost money betting on Harbaugh drafting JJ McCarthy. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about Shedeur Sanders? I don't even know how to phrase this question, honestly, because this question is, this segment was kind of about a few different things. So just let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single comment. So whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We're building an amazing community here, and I absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to. Something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.